quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, it is a healer. It does have a lot of disengage potential, or sorry, engage on if you have someone like a Kashka jumping in, maybe a Cruel, not as often, but, with the Rhyme pickup on Rogue side, they might feel that Lyra against the Rhyme is a little bit problematic, so they ban it out. There is no Cruel, they have the Rhyme, so I think that this is kind of the draft team Rogue kind of wants to have as they start to go into this and look at their draft. They see they're kind of banning and drafting around that Rhyme with the Baptiste band as well to make sure that Rhyme's really not locked up with too much crowd control, which I think is interesting. You got that Catherine day, and Catherine is really going to be able to stop Rhyme with a stun. So Team Solo Mid could just probably use one more crowd control hero, maybe a Celeste, and that would really lock that Rhyme up.
Yeah, definitely could be looking to do so. Obviously, the Blackfeather coming off the table as well from TSM, not wanting that to go over to Hammy. Blackfeather and Rhyme are incredibly deadly together. But it is going to be a Arden locked in for the side of Rogue, and that coveted Petal coming out, likely going to be on Best Chuck. They might even go something that they can run a little bit flexible, possibly pick up a Kestrel of some sort just to hide what they want to run that Petal as. But I'm going to say it's likely going to be Best Chuck in the lane on a weapon Petal.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Petal has been absolutely dominant in the meta. Really tough to take down when you get to the late game because of how much damage that comes out of that Crystal Petal. And of course, we did see a few weapon Petals early on, but, it does seem like Crystal Petal, that seems to be the more consistent meta we've seen coming out of it. Arden comes out on Rogue. This is actually a support hero I really think Evolve has mastered. He's absolutely phenomenal on so many different support heroes, but on Arden, with that Echo, the double gauntlet is one of probably the most incredible crowd control items you can really get. And it can allow Rhyme to navigate, in between, catch out the carry, and take out the carry right away, which Rhyme very good at doing.
Yeah, and we see the Jewel come in here, and we've seen a couple teams run it as Crystal Power, but I would say mostly it's run as Weapon Power. So again, they are keeping that degree of flexibility. You haven't committed the Petal to the lane. You haven't committed the Jewel to the lane either. You can wait and see how the draft is going and decide from there where you want to go with these picks.
Yeah, I find this interesting, though, because Jewel, as a melee, if you can get the stun onto Rhyme, you can lock him up for a second, Catherine comes to follow, but if you don't, you're so susceptible to those Winter Spires. They come in, they do a lot of damage, they get behind Jewel and do damage from the backside even, so it's really hard for Jewel, I think, to play into Rhyme. It's more of a high-skilled hero, or with a lot of skill shots you have to land to take Rhyme out early, and yeah, like you said, Rogue's going to be able to sit there and think about this, how they're going to want to go. Obviously, Rhyme's in the jungle, so their laner, it's going to be very critical. It's going to be that Vox.
Yeah, I think Vox is a pretty safe bet all the time. He's, absolutely amazing hero, been in the meta for ages, just due to how much usefulness he has in his kit. He has a gap closer or a distance creator, as well as obviously a slow from that pulse, a silence, a team-wide silence potential. So there's a lot that a Vox really brings to the table.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see how well it plays. Going into probably the Jewel in the lane, you do have a little bit of a short-ranged melee. He's got the Thunderstrike, but other than the Thunderstrike, Jewel really has to play close. And against a Vox, that can be very, very helpful. The only thing that's worth noting, though, is that Jewel's heroic perk in this newest update really allows Jewel to be probably the tankiest hero when facing the damage. And that's worth noting just because, with all the reduction in defense, Jewel's heroic perk really now way exceeds the amount of defense that you'll get almost on any other hero. So it's a big factor, a big deal, and we'll have to see how well Best Chuck and A plays it as we get into game number 1.
Yeah, and heading in here, obviously, Pon the Original going to be playing this Crystal Rhyme in the jungle, picking up the 2 Crystal Bits, as well as Von C, so that will be the jungle Crystal Petal with Best Chuck on that Jewel. And it's going to be a fun matchup to watch. We know the damage that Jewel used to be able to do with those Thunder Strikes going that critical route. And now with the changes to defense, it's going to be all the more fun for Best Chuck here in this game.
And you see Best Chuck really doesn't have any fear here in the lane, already being able to put a big chunk of damage into Hammy and forcing that Flask already out here within the first minute of the game. This is going to actually cause the mini K to come out. I'd say pretty early here for Hammy, as he's just trying to deal with Best Chuck's Thunderstrike. In the jungle, when you see Von C's porting back, as an Elder Treant being secured by Pawn and Evil is going to go their way. Flash gets a stun, but not able to secure the Elder Treant. So a little bit of a win, a moral victory, if anything, for the side of Rogue so far. Yeah, I mean, again, if Best Truck at A has the skill to just be absolutely on point with these Thunderstrikes, and of course the jump onto like one of the carries, probably Rhyme, right? You really want to stun up Rhyme. The crowd control is the only thing you can really do to Rhyme to negate his power. And it's going to be really important to not miss that. You have a small margin of victory.
Yeah, absolutely agreeable. I think either the Rhyme or the Vox, whichever one you end up getting on, is really a safe stun. As long as you're locking up one of the carries, it doesn't really matter too much which one it is. And obviously, Vox going to be the squishier one, so if there is an opportunity to jump on Vox, that should almost always be the target. You want to make sure you burn out that Sonic Zoom before you commit to it, otherwise he'll just jump right out of the way.
Actually, I need to make a correction. I don't think Hemi used his healing flask. It's actually the Defender contract coming out from Evolve. Kind of threw me off there a little bit. So it looks like, at least from the Spectator client, everyone still has their healing flask up. So that's important, just from the fact that, and actually kind of a cool buy from Evolve to kind of go with that Defender contract, knowing that Hemi's going to struggle against those Thunderstrikes when they land.
Oh, absolutely. Those Thunderstrikes, even here this early on in the game, do a pretty decent chunk of damage. And, as you mentioned it earlier, the changes that we had in this patch make Jewel incredibly tanky at all points of the game. So it's kind of difficult for Vox, even with the resonance bounces, to actually get any effective push back onto Best Chuck.
Yeah, especially here early on. So it's really allowed, I think, Hamby to kind of have a little bit better sustain in the lane. As pairing, of course, Arden able to give the Defender contract plus the Vanguard. It's kind of a win-win there. Hammy actually does recently use that flask. I guess he was running into a little bit of trouble in the lane, so had to probably use it there. And of course, Pawn the Original had pushed in with Evil into the jungle, leaving him pretty much on his own for a good chunk of the time in the lane. They're going to try to secure another Elder Treant. They do secure. Chuck could get, Von C and Flash couldn't quite get in there in time take that away, so they're gonna get just chalk up going back to their backs, and that's of course two Elder Treants, I mean, for Rogue, and you can start to see that a little bit of a gold lead popping up here, and Hammy and Pawn actually gonna rotate back together. They're gonna clear those back juggles and the back Treant there together. Another way for them to try to just keep building up that gold lead and help them get ahead of Team Solo Mid when they get to the mid game.
Yeah, absolutely. And, looking here at the rotations, Rogue has been very on point with sharing their ambient as frequent as possible. And now Von C, is probably going to be working towards that Shatterglass first item, as Frostburn no longer slows on the minions. So that is a huge change to make note here on this Crystal Petal, as now all of Rogue is rotating up to match TSM here. A slight level advantage. If we look at the carries, Hammy level 5, Pawn the Original level 6 to the 4 and 5 of TSM on Best Chuck and Von C.
Right, and a lot of that in part due to the fact Evil was up in the lane pretty early on to try to help just keep Hammy a little bit more sustained into that Jewel, as well as the rotation together in the backs. You see that right now, Hammy and Pawn able to secure those backs together and then really not lose out on too much lane farm as well for Hammy. So this has really helped Rogue, I think, gain a small edge over Team Solo Mid as we get closer and closer to 6 minutes, which is when a lot of these power spikes hit with the ultimates coming online.
Yeah, that's definitely a key point for most of these heroes. Obviously, the spontaneous combustion coming out of Petal can do some additional team healing, which will be nice. Big red button on a weapon Jewel, not the most impactful thing, but definitely can still help snipe out some of those ranged targets when they're low. And so far, just a couple trades here back and forth. I think the biggest one to make note of is obviously that Blast Tremor and the Gauntlet coming out of these captains are going to be the most game-changing ultimates, with the exception of maybe if Pawn the Original gets a triple stun or if Hammy gets a triple silence with that wait for it. So we'll just have to see.
We will. Hammy and Pawn, of course, rotate those backs again. Hammy gets it here just in time to make sure that Team Solo Mid can't push up on the turret. It's going to be actually both teams rotating to the jungle shops here real quick. We'll see if they kind of meet up, as neither of them look like they're quite ready for an engagement just yet. But important to note that you see Pon the original already has a Shatter Glass on Rhyme. This is a pretty substantial power spike for him. It really doesn't take a lot for him to come online. Once he's get this Shatter Glass, he packs a huge punch.
Yeah, that Shatter Glass is absolutely huge. It gives you a lot of additional fortified health as well due to the amount of damage that you're doing, as well as that ticking damage if Rhyme does land a basic attack on you and start to stack up in a fight as it goes on. So definitely make note and look for that as the fight goes on. You'll see low health targets diminishing even lower. And Pon is one of those Rhymes that likes to go with the tier 3 boots very early on so he can keep that constant pressure up. Usually it's the journey boots, so that once he's damaged a target after he's used that proc, it is back up again in 12 seconds as opposed to 60. So definitely a useful tool for a Rhyme if we want to get to that backline and try to lock down Vainglory.
Yeah, that's for sure. You really do want to try to take the pedal out quickly, and I think that a lot of this is going to come later in the game for Rogue. The gauntlets are going to be a big factor for that, and as well as the Valkyrie. But, you know, again, Rogue doesn't really need to rush the game. I think that their power spikes are strong enough late game that they're not as worried about Petal. Of course, obviously, Petal and Jewel will get stronger as the game progresses, but I think really so will Vox and Rhyme. So it's a really even progression for both teams as we get into this game. Just the big difference maker is really going to be how Evil can isolate the enemy team, how they can isolate Team Solo mid, I think, with those gauntlets if he goes direction with the Echo.
Yeah, I think he will. Evil on most heroes actually runs Echo. I mean, even on the Lance for that double Githian wall is something he's really known for, as well as Evil specifically is incredibly good at understanding just how healthy he is, just how much damage the enemies can do, and he's very good at juggling minion waves away from the turret and remaining alive in doing so, which saves them a lot of objective control as the games go on. And Evil, really one of the top captains in North America, in my opinion.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. He's really been able to put his talents on display, as we do see a little bit of a catch out by Flash, but they're not going to follow up through it. Vainglory able to kind of scare away Pon and Evil. Best Chuck of the lane, of course, is trading damage with Hammy. Not a lot happening there. It's pretty quiet game at 8 minutes, and we saw this in Europe as well. Teams are being much more cautious about giving up early kills, not being as aggressive with counter farming, just because there's not as much of a payout for it, especially if you give up an early kill for that first blood here. Gonna see actually it's Flash. He might get caught in between. Here comes the gauntlet, double stun. Vainglory locked up and rooted, and there's the final Spire to finish him off. Petal is down. Vainglory goes giving the first blood over to Pon the original. Not who you wanted to give that first blood over. And of course, this is going to open up the jungle. Looks like a gold mine at the 9-minute mark. It's going to be what they're going to secure. And this is a very full gold mine. Going to be a massive payout.
Yeah, nice 400 chunk for everybody on the team. Never hurts. And, you know, again, the Jewel tried to get the steal. Best Chuck not quite able to get that big red button down in
close,
time.
Though. That was very close. That was a great attempt.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Pon gets stunned up, takes a little bit of damage. Going to try to come in here, though. Really just keeping their turret safe. It's below half health, so you can see Best Chuck at A. Every chance he can get to whittle it down a little bit further, he's going to take. This, meanwhile, Vainglory, and you look at this farm, Vainglory is pretty far behind Pon as far as jungle CS, 65 to 54. That's notable in a lot of different ways. One, you're going to see Pon pick up his second tier 3 item here very soon. Of course, why did I say that? Vainglory steals away. I think the first first trade, he stole it away from Rogue all game. But that's going to be important. Oh, in the lane, Best Chuck almost drops. He's going to have to be careful here. But here comes Vainglory looking to try to catch Hamby out. A little bit of damage here. That defender contract had been sold, so Evil relying purely on Vanguard and his items to try to keep his members alive. But Rogue's going to be able to now push this lane up. It's a Team Solo mid's turret. That's going to just cause them to rotate down. I think right now Rogue, Denominate, is playing very cautiously as far as objective play because it seems like they're waiting a little bit longer for their power spikes.
The Vox does take a decent amount of time to come online, but so does the Jewel, with the exception of how tanky she is now. in that early and mid game. So those are things to make note of. The turret is now dropped, and Rogue's not done.
Rogue is not, and look at that, a kill to go. Flash X, he's low. He's got to be careful. They're going to find actually Von C on the other side. Von C actually having to try to disengage here. There looks like they're going to say, yeah, Von C's play did save Flash X's life, but he's compromised here. He's caught between the enemy jungle and the full team of Rogue. Now he's just trying to find a way to get away here. Rogue's going to be okay not going for the kill as they're looking to rotate down. They're going to shop up and pick up the items, and that's it. Eve of Harvest coming out upon the original, hitting a massive power spike, where you're really seeing Von C still, he's pretty close to building his second tier 3, but he's still a little ways off. And the biggest thing is just the fact that you've got Best Truck a Day, only sitting on 2 offensive items here as we get 12 minutes, which isn't too bad, but he needs that second Tyrant's Monocle to really lay into a Rhyme. Rhyme's just so tanky otherwise.
Yeah, a lot of changes to a lot of these heroes, making the damage that comes out, the sustainability that comes out, substantially different for some of them. We talked about the Jewel a little bit, the Rhyme as well. Rhyme was always a low defense hero, that his real sustainability was that he built up the fortified health in the fights. Now with even more health, the fights being naturally longer, Rhyme has a much more substantial impact on the fights. Looking over at the Arden as well. So Arden does give a barrier based on his total health. Correct me if I am wrong, Dragon. But, with the buffs to the health as well as just a actual buff in the skill itself, right. Those barriers can be incredible as the game goes on.
No, right. It's exactly based on his max health. And, of course, the items, everything has gone up in health, which means that Arden can build an insane amount of barrier on his allies to help protect them here. Now, we do have potentially, Team Solo Mid could be looking to go into this turret, but the Echo is built. So Evol actually probably looking for a chance to be able to lock up Team Solo Mid. And you see Team Solo Mid respecting what Arden can do right now. Backing away, not going to be able to go in and over-aggressive this, try to push in that turret. And actually, as the game progresses, this is going to be a problem for Team Solo Mid, Denominate. They're really going to have a hard time pushing in onto objectives, knowing that Rogue can just lock them down with those gauntlets.
Yeah, absolutely could, especially with the fact that, Evol, again, we've seen it before, that kind of Venn diagram situation sometimes can be one of the best ways to use it. If you can lock somebody down after they've already burned their reflex block, if you can keep them in such an isolated area, it makes it a lot easier for Rhyme to get those Winter Spires, to follow up with a Root, follow up with a Valkyrie, anything he needs, because that enemy is trapped, as well as Vox will be able to freely float around and build up the stacks of Breaking Point, which he does have. He has the Sorrow Blade, the Poison Gem, and the Breaking Point. Kind of an older build that we've seen have some pretty good effect here on Vox, and we'll have to see if they're able to pull it all the way through to the end. As, again, Best Chuck now with the Sorrow Blade double monocle, likely working into the Tornado trigger for his last item, is going to hit like an absolute truck.
Yeah, we really need to talk about just how critical this game is to nominate, because although it doesn't single-handedly define who goes, Team Solo Mid and Rogue are 2 points away at 16 and 14 points respectively. If Team Solo Mid were to beat Rogue here tonight, that would allow them to pass up Rogue. Otherwise, with Rogue's win, it gives Rogue the tiebreaker over Team Solo Mid. And it also means that Rogue is going to continue to build that lead over Team Solo Mid. And whoever gets second place in North America, they do go to Worlds.
Whoever gets the first unseeded place. But we got a fight breaking out. There's the double gauntlet.
Wow, what a blow up here. Rogue doing a fantastic job to follow through and get the kill onto Best Chuck. Of course, Von C, he's still pretty full health, but Flash X is not. Flash X almost dropping, and that's just too much pressure. Von C better watch out. He's going to get collapsed upon, and he goes down, and Flash G, he just cannot stick around. He knows there's nothing he could do. He's going to give that up. Rogue finds 2 kills, and this looks like a Kraken going over, playing this game very well. And this might be this might be Team Solo Mid thinking about letting Upon the Original play this Rhyme again for the rest of the series.
Yeah, definitely something that has to be considered. This Kraken is going down incredibly quickly thanks to the huge bursts of damage that Rhyme has. Similar to Celeste, very good at taking those objectives because they don't move out of the way of the Winter Spires, which allows the Rhyme to just, wail in massive amounts of damage. and now it is TSM on the back foot, and that's not a place we're really used to seeing them at. The Frostburn was built by Von C, maybe not having caught up on the pedal changes and the crystal item changes for this patch. The Frostburn does no longer slow on pedals Munions, so that is something that we have to pay attention to here, because it's kind of wasted damage, in my opinion, Dragonborn.
It definitely could be. We see a lot of trading here, trying right below the Kraken as Rogue looks to secure this turret and keep pushing. There comes out the first gauntlet. Valkyrie comes down but misses Von C as he's able to jump away from that. There's still one more gauntlet in the bag. Oh no, actually he used his Echo for the Vanguard. We've been seeing that a lot with Ardent, saving the Echo potentially just to keep his allies alive. But this is going to allow them to get that turret and now move down here. They're going to actually forgo the Crystal Sentry Denominator, and I feel like I'm kind of surprised. They definitely could have taken it as Team Solo Mid had to completely recall to their base.
Yeah, I think they were just trying to get down to shop, get some more vision. Evil really wants to get that vision control up against TSM at this point, as well as hit the shop for the carries as well. Hammy and Pon the original both sitting on a decent chunk of gold. Eve of Harvest is complete for Pon. He's likely going to finish that Aegis for his next item, maybe even the Metal Jacket instead, just depending on who he feels is the bigger threat. But Hammy, with that Metal Jacket complete, going to be able to sustain a bit more against Best Chuck's Thunder Strikes here. Now with that Tornado Trigger complete, he is at his maximum offensive potential shy of an infusion. And this game still could go either way. If TSM finds a single kill, this Jewel can push straight through turrets. No problem whatsoever, while Petal and Catherine work on the Kraken as it respawns. So we'll have to see as it goes on. Obviously, Rogue, though, absolutely looking amazing right now.
I would like to know, it's actually really important that Best Chuck gets an Infusion, because Infusion did not get nerfed for their defense, and that's a sizable amount of defense now that can really help when you only have a reflex block to boot. So Best Chuck today would definitely, he's probably going to look to try to wait to engage until he can get that Infusion, because Von C does have his Infusion. Dragon Eye and Frostburn being built first, and it looks like he's going into that Broken Myth third, which we see pretty popular item. Instead, Pon the original, even with the Goldie that he has really been putting a lot of that money into the defense. You can see it right there, as there's just not a lot of need to be extra, to go glass cannon on the side of Rogue here. Even Hammy has a lot of defense here, going with Journey Boots as well.
Yeah, again, those Journey Boots are so good at keeping a team in a fight, and Vox, someone who wants to stick, at an arm's reach, away from the enemies to get his maximum potential down. Obviously, bouncing those resonance strikes around as well will be helpful for their damage. It's not a lot, but as a fight goes on, it can really start to add up.
We're going to see a gauntlet coming in. They're going to get the engage going in. There's a double gauntlet, but it gets blocked out. Great job by Flash X to get that stun. It's such a hard stun to do onto a gauntlet, and he's able to get this. And now Hammy looking to try to find a kill on the Best Chuck at A. He gets stunned up, though. Best Chuck's still alive, but Valkyrie comes in, blocked by Flash X again. There's the silence, and it lands. And now it's Rogue. They've taken a lot of that big red button damage, and they have to disengage. Von C trying to clean this up. But they're finding Best Chuck at A, who just barely escapes death clutches there, as he was almost found by Rogue. It's going to be Hammy finding actually Flash X here. Von C, he's going to find all three members of Rogue and get deleted. So that was such a close fight. Honestly, the best fight we've seen from Team Solo Mid yet, but it still is not enough to stop Pon the original on this rhyme.
Yeah, it hasn't been enough, and I do want to make note of what Pon the original has gone on the rhyme as far as his abilities. He's maxed out the A and the B. That's going to give them the ability to get that B root up more frequently. It's a much bigger game changer than trying to land that ultimate. And at this point in the game, the time between the fights, his ultimate's going to be up anyway. He doesn't need that additional cooldown. He is not the main source of damage. So just locking a target down as frequent as possible is really what Pon's win condition is here. And just allow Hammy to ramp up those broken mid stacks and really start to scale away. Best Chuck not able to come in. That's a second Kraken now for Rogue here. And 3 turrets stand between them and a victory, unless if they're able to find both of the carries here. I don't think they close out the game, but I do think they put themselves in a even more comfortable position.
Well, what's going to be important to note here is that you are going to see Best Chuck and Von C with infusions here in the next fight, as well as Von C finally having that broken myth completed. So this is Team Solo Mid's maximum amount of damage they're going to be able to output so far into the game. And we'll just see how Rogue kind of balances it. So far, Rogue's really not here at the turret. Actually, maybe a misplay, allowing this Kraken to fall almost deleted here. Silence comes out, lands, not blocked out, and they're going to actually get the Kraken before giving up a single turret. Not what Rogue was hoping to do, Denominate, is, unfortunately, I don't think rotating up soon enough to kind of follow up that Kraken damage.
No, definitely didn't come up soon enough, and they essentially did nothing but just give TSM free gold. And I don't know about you, but if I'm ahead of TSM, I don't want to give them that gold to come back.
Oh, that's it.
They're definitely a team that when you make a mistake like that, they will run away with it. You just gave enough gold for the entire side of Team Solo Mid to reinfuse. That's a pretty decent chunk of gold. I mean, 1,500 across the team, bringing that net lead down to about 3.5, almost 4,000. Here we go. Gauntlet's down. Good stun.
Another gauntlet comes out, stuns up Von C twice in a row, but now it's Best Truck in it. He's caught between a rock and a hard place. He's in there, goes down. He's not able to survive. Pawn the original does drop low, but he's still alive. And it's just Hammy and Evol with Pawn here staying in the lane, trying to see if they can get this turret finally. The Kraken didn't finish. Flash X with the stun here. Von C just kind of stuttering around the turret to see if he can stay alive. Silence lands. All three members of Rogue are going to have to back away. Good job by Von C and Flash. They lose the turret, but they were able to stay alive and keep Rogue actually fairly low on their health. So they're not going to be able to, keep staying there, maybe even push into the Sanctuary. They actually have to back out here, and it's going to be a recall from Pawn the Original.
Yeah, and that was such an incredibly close fight for both teams. The unfortunate thing was Chuck did go in, and he did commit to the fight onto Pawn the Original, but because of the distance that trampoline on Von C created, he was then too far out of the fight to actually gain anything within as far as damage goes. The Munions were not on the same target as Best Chuck. It did take Von C time to re-engage, get that targeting back down. So overall, I feel like TSM has the damage to pull out a fight here. They definitely have the sustainability to pull out a fight here, but it's going to be based on Von C's use of trampoline. If he uses it too far away from the fight, then it's going to be constantly Best Chuck just getting focused down on that front line while losing out on, half of your damage source for the team as well. Another gauntlet is out. Here we go.
Oh, stuns the second gauntlet. Flash X, he's getting really good at this. As they look to have to back away, but it's still Rogue with the lead and the upper hand here as they look to try. Actually, they're going to back away from that fight, but they do get a good engage here. Flash X did drop fairly low, and Rogue really almost full health across the board. It's been a tough game so far here for Best Truck and Von C. And if you look at Von C, he's so squishy. He has almost barely any health compared to the rest of his team, so he's got to be extra careful not to get caught out in these fights. And he's been on a good job staying back. It's actually been Best Chuck who just gets locked up in those gauntlets, unable to get away.
Yeah, and Pawn the Original has picked up a Crucible for his team as well. Gonna try to help block out on that silence if he's able to do so. I have to see how exactly his, lightning fast reflexes are watching that Catherine ult wind up. Obviously be on Evol probably to block the first one, and then with Pawn the Original knowing the second one's coming, it should make it a little bit easier. He'll be watching out for it. And if they're able to block both silences, then Flash has really lost out on almost everything he can contribute to a team fight.
Exactly, and that's something that we haven't really seen Flash. We've seen Flash use his Merciless Pursuit really to contribute more than anything else, as the Silence hasn't been as big of an impact so far in this matchup. So we will have to just keep watching Flash. He's going to be the guy to kind of help bring Team Solo Mid back into this game. With no turrets taken so far, and a few thousand gold behind, Team Solo Mid does have to be extra careful. They're looking to maybe find a mistake here. Hammy is a little bit out, but there comes another gauntlet. There's no echo. Although there is an echo. Here comes the double gauntlet. Valkyrie lands as well. Von C stunned up. Who's going to be the one coming on top? Von C tries to move around. There's the Atlas onto Hammy. Gets him down, but Pawn the Original still alive. Von C unfortunately not able to get in far enough to take out Pawn, as he's very low, but still high. And now it's Hammy who's looking to kind of finish this up here. Finds Von C Almost finds Flash, but he's going to back off here. This is going to be another Kraken for Rogue, or they're just going to push it and take out these turrets.
I definitely think they have the damage with these huge death timers. There's no way that Flash should realistically be able to stop this push coming out of Rogue. I believe that is going to be... Well, Pond taking the turret aggro for too long.
He might be in trouble. He has to use a reflex block to stay in it. And there's the Vanguard, but they're going to get the turret. And now they're turning their attention onto the Crystal. And this is going to be game. Rogue takes down Team Solo Mid in a very sweet revenge story here after losing to them in Mobile Masters.
Yeah, great plays coming out of both teams. This time it did end up with Rogue on top. I'm not sure I was in love with the Crystal Petal against the Rhyme, especially going the Frostburn first. Again, if you want to, perform at the best, we need to understand the changes that are implemented in the patch. Frostburn does no longer slow with petals.